Now the ninth teaching starts talking about the power of being vulnerable with others. And there's this myth that to be vulnerable with others is to be weak. And what I learned was that as I started trusting myself, it was quite the opposite. So let me read the teaching and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Being the experts of our own life does not mean we cannot call on others for support. Just because we can do it alone, we are not required to do it alone. It is a sign of strength to reach out to others, to be vulnerable in front of others, to trust those close to us enough to surrender to their care. Now, I know I've been talking about projections and standing on your own and coming back to self. And you have to be able to do that. One of the things when you do read the story of Antoinette that was again profound, there's that word again, for me, was when I was introduced to that mentor within me. She came to me in the style of a past life where I was a medicine woman on the Amazon River. And I just rode down the Amazon River and I had all this knowledge about these herbs, and all of the tribes people would intuitively call me to bank on the sides of the river, and I would give healings and I would tell them what herbs to use and things such as that. There was such a strength in Amazon woman that as I began to really embody that archetype, although I experienced her as an archetype, in my belief system it was an actual past life. But anytime I felt vulnerable, I would call on her. What that did, because I knew that I could depend on her, and I had that support system, it enabled me to allow myself to surrender to the support of those really in my tight circle, the ones that I have come to trust, who I know that I can be the totality of my being, that even when I'm in some of my ugly moods, I can be honest about that. They're not going to judge me because they know me well enough that no matter how ugly I'm feeling, 98% of the time I'm accountable for those feelings and I work them through. And the other 2%, even if I do act out, I come back and hold myself responsible. That's to me what I call integrity. It's not perfection. It is accountability. So in this ninth teaching, you're invited to begin to look at your relationships, to look at intimacy. Intimacy means into me see. See who I am and accept me as I am. And I too will offer you the same. And that's the beauty of this kind of healing, is that you develop such a beautiful vertical support system and model of healing for yourself, that's where you get your security, is from your source self. Then your relationships are reflections of that security, not the source of it. Where we lose ourselves is when we look to others in the horizontal, in our day-to-day life, to meet those needs. All of this work, of which lifetime is this anyway? All of these teachings of Chief have invited you to come home to yourself in such an empowering way that your true connection is that source self. And it's your adult self who's connected to your higher self, who's connected to your higher power, who's connected to your soul, who's connected to source. There are layers of those dimensions of consciousness. And each layer we expand and we lose our own identity till when we connect with source self, we are source self. Those sayings that you are God, that's what it means, is that we all have that blueprint within us. And as we travel up the vibrational scale, we lose our identity as Catherine. I lose my identity as I surrender into my higher self, which is my spirit self. And then that spirit self surrenders into my soul self, which is the oversoul, which is connected to that power greater than self, which is connected to that source self. At each layer, we vibrationally surrender more and more. And you will have your own terms for that. Let's do an EFT, which invites us to be vulnerable. Even though, through my journey, I have learned to stand on my own 2 feet, I now trust myself enough to be vulnerable with others, because I know that vulnerability is shared from a place of want, not need. So even though I have progressed in my healing to where I feel self-contained in my vertical connection to those in the unseen, I have made contact with my children within. I have started the healing process with the wounded aspects of my soul. And I can come into my relationships with others in the physical plane from a position of desire to connect, not a need for them to take responsibility for my pain. Now, you see the difference of that? You see where we're going with this? Okay, let's neutralize it. I have moved from a place of dependency, from a place of need. And I may still have aspects of me who operate in those lower vibrational frequencies. But through this process, I have given birth to that voice within me who holds love higher than fear. I trust that voice within me. And because I do, I can come into my relationships with others from a position of desire, not need. I can be vulnerable because I trust myself to cope. I know I have the capacity to choose relationships which resonate with my highest good. There have been relationships that have fallen away on this journey to the center of my soul. I now understand that as I progressed and my vibrational frequency was altered, that what I attracted or who I attract as friends may have changed. So I have learned how to grieve. I have learned how to let go. I have learned how to help my wounded ones come back into the center where they can also find this peace. I am in the process of the ever-evolving task of healing my own soul. And as I do that, I stand in the power of empowerment. I stand in the vibration of love. And I am now willing to show who I am to those I most trust. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh boy, I can feel this kind of, building up to this ending. The 10th teaching is just absolutely divine. So thank you, and until tomorrow.